Hey everybody, welcome to the latest edition of Sketchy Go Ichie. I'm your host, Roger Andrews, illustrator, graphic designer, content creator, and the content I'm creating for you today is all about Procreate. This is another step in my beginner's guide to learning Procreate, the app of all apps for drawing and painting and creating on your iPad. So, if you want to learn more, stay tuned and enjoy.
Sketchy Go Ichie.
All right, let's jump right into the amazing world of layers in Procreate. By the way, I am using, yes, you guessed it, the Generation 1 iPad with the Generation 1 Apple Pencil. This being a beginner's guide to Procreate, I'm going to use the iPad I used at the very beginning of me learning the app. Hopefully I've learned a few more things along the way. So, layers. Let's open up a file that I have here on my gallery in Procreate. It has, you guessed it, lots of layers. And as you can see, that little icon in the corner, I should say, right there in the very, very corner, the little yellow one there, is the color selection. But right next door to it is your layer palette or your layer menu. Okay? So within that are a series of layers. I really labeled them, but there are a series. Well, the line art one is labeled, right? So in order to do images in a way that allows you to have editability, allows you to literally layer color on top of color, or to do anything that is gives variety to the art. I'll give you an example. All right, we will select the color line layer. If you note right here, color line, that is literally all the line art on this guy was on his own layer. By the way, who knows who this guy is? No, it's not Mando from The Mandalorian. It's actually Boba Fett. As far as I'm concerned, the original Mandalorian. Anyways, so color line, it's on its own layer. There you have it. All right. We have aspects of the piece of art that are also on their own layers. And what's good about that is I have the ability to change and edit any of those features because they're on their own layers. All right. I can take away and color change and do anything to those layers because they're separate from each other. That's the beauty of layers. Okay, so in order to create your own, I'm going to exit this guy and I'm going to create a new canvas, which we've gone over in our previous videos. Just a random, I'm going to select square. Doesn't even really matter. Just for the heck of it, I'm going to fill it with that weird yellow because it's sitting there. And I want to demonstrate to you how layers work in the most simple way possible. Obviously, when you open up a new document, here you see it has a background color and a layer. In order to add a new layer, you just simply click the plus icon right here in the corner, and within that layer palette, right, or layer menu, and layer 2 forms on top, right, and layer 3 and 4 and so forth. Okay, so to navigate your layers, all you really want to do is select the layer that you want to be active, the one that you want to apply artwork to. So for instance, I'll take a random brush and I'll throw something on layer 1. Something simple. Okay, just a simple image on layer 1, just so we have something to look at while we're doing a little demonstration. Okay. It's a little mad ball, I guess is what we'll call this. A little soul patch. Okay. So now we have something on that layer. Notice how, because it's above that yellow layer 1, it is not affecting anything on layer 1. So I can literally shift and move and zoom in and zoom out, thus creating editability. That's the key element to having layers. Now, obviously another aspect of having layers is the ability to color things on its own layer. I know it's an inartful way of describing it, but it's the simplest way for me to express it. So for example, we also have the ability to move those layers simply by holding down and not letting go, literally holding down the layer and moving it underneath. So now if you notice, layer 3 is now under layer 2, right? So we now know that this artwork, right there, that little checkbox will determines the visibility of the layer. We now know that it's underneath layer 3, right? We know that layer 3 now is above the yellow layer underneath. So now they all have their own separate homes, right? So say I want to, I don't know, I want to throw some color, some random color. I'm going to pick something crazy. It's purple color. And I want to apply color underneath this layer and above this one. I make sure I select the layer I want, and you always know it's selected because it'll be highlighted in blue. And then you just fill it. You know, you can do it in many different ways. I choose to just randomly scratch in some color. Again, this really doesn't matter. It's just to show how layers affect other layers. All right. So we'll just randomly put this weird purpley color in. It doesn't have to be perfect. It's just for demonstration purposes only. All right. So right, it's really weird and it's strange. This color choice on the yellow, which is kind of vibrates. I can only imagine what it's doing on your screen. But because it's on its own layer, I now have the ability to manipulate it. Of course, I can move it, I can shift it anywhere I want. I can change the opacity of it, which that little N right there is, it has a bunch of options under it. I'm going to get into in detail, trust me, I'm going to get into detail what each of these different options do. But one of them is an opacity slider, which is this little slider right across the top and allows you to change the opacity. So I'll put it in a nice low opacity. And there you go. That's the essence of layers in Procreate. The ability to take and to manipulate the color or line art or anything that you want on its own layer without affecting the line art. The last thing I want to mention in layers, again, this is just a simple introduction to layers, is I'd like to rename the layer. I like to have a distinct sort of map or guidebook to what I'm working on. And the best way to do that is to label the layers. Now, we'll start at layer 1. Right now, layer 1 is fine. I can leave it as is. But I choose to, if you give it one click, so once it's selected, you give it one click, and you'll get this little bar on the side, which has series of options, which I also will get into in further detail down the road. But for now, I'll just hit rename, and we'll call it yellow. See, the keyboard will, sorry, spell yellow with 2 L's. Excuse me. Just an artist, not a spelling bee champ. Like yellow is a tough word to spell. Anyways, so yellow, and then you just hit return. That's yellows in there. All right. So above that, it will call this rename color. All right. Hit return. We'll click on that layer to make it active. Click again to bring up this field, this renaming option, and we'll name that one line. Okay, and then hit return. So now we have 3 separate layers with 3 separate elements. Okay, pretty simple, right? But what if, this is the last of the last things, I really mean it. What if you want to duplicate that layer or delete it or just, just change it, right? Here's another option. I use my finger, you can use the Apple Pencil if you like. But if you want to, you simply press your finger on and slide to the left. And you're going to get 3 options. Let me show you that again. Slide to the left. And you're going to get 3 options. Lock, duplicate, and delete. Obviously, if I want to get rid of it, I can do so. So let me show you that. We have layer 4, which has no content on it. It's blank. I'm just going to slide to the left. You notice how it didn't even have to be active. I can grab any layer in the layer chain here, delete. It's gone. Okay? That's it, gone. But we're going to slide to the left on the line art. We're going to duplicate it. So now we have two of the identical line art. Literally, it's even titled the same thing. So if I'd like to, I can take that line and I can, again, it's the same identical thing as the line art. I can, if I want to, I can change the color of it, if I so choose. All right? But it's identical. So I can click and get rid of that one and that one. All right? The visibility, the little visibility checkbox, we'll call that. I can get rid of that new one that I added on just by saying get rid of it. It still exists, but I just took the visibility of it off. And that's all there is to it. I can add that new layer on top, select a color, and just throw some random colors on top of it. By that I mean just some white, if I wanted to. These little white highlights, I don't know how necessary they are, but I certainly can do that. And as I've mentioned before, created a new layer. I can rename it. We'll call it highlights. Yes, I know it's spelled funny. Highlights. And again, because it is, let's zoom in on this guy so you can see, because it is movable, it's a layer, I can move it underneath the line. So you notice how it kind of overlaps in certain areas. I move it underneath the line. Let's see, I'll shift it around so you can really see. Oh, did I move it under? Oh, can I move it under the line? Look, notice how the white is now behind the line art above it, that orange line art, or whatever color that is. And now let me shift it around. You can see how it's underneath. That's the power of layering. That's why I think it was so important for me to have as the fifth video in the series, in the fifth step in the series. That's why I felt like it was so important to have that. But anyways, so that's your basic layering happening. Okay? Just to reiterate, plus to adds a new one, all right? Once that layer is selected, you can slide to the left to be able to lock it. Oh, by the way, let me mention what lock does. All right, so I'll lock the highlights. What happens with that is now it's protected. It's basically, you can't do anything to that layer. There's an invisible force field around the highlight layer. So there's nothing I can add. Say I want to take this red color, and because that layer is locked, it's protected. So I can't inadvertently do anything to it. The app will not allow it. I can unlock it here if I wanted to. I could just go back to open layers and just say, forget it. I didn't want to do that anyways. Thank you for warning me, Procreate. You're my friend. So that's layering, right? We have our separate layers. Again, just click to the left. I can unlock it. And once it's selected, or not, you can just press it. Press the selected layer. You can do it for other ones. Basically, select it, press it, and it allows you to rename it. So, rename it. We'll call it white. And that's that. So, shift. I can move this on top if I wanted to. Move this on top of the... See, so there are your options. Anyways, I don't want to get too off the rails here. That's layering. Basic, bare bones process. All right? Hope you guys get it. If you do, please, guys, click subscribe first off. We already know to do that. Leave a comment in the comment section below. Ask any question you want. Hit me up on all the other social media, the Instagrams and so forth. And let's communicate about these. I want to really know what you want to know about the app. I'm doing a step-by-step thing. I'm trying to do the most basic features of the app, the navigation, the brush selection, the layering, the import, the export, all of that stuff. The basic for anyone who's never even touched the app will know that. But if there's anything in particular you really want me to drill in on, I'm perfectly willing to do so. All right? So anyways, that's layering. Hope you enjoyed. Thanks, guys. Oh, and if you want to see more art than this random little mad ball, check me out online. Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. Sketchy go ichie. Live your moment. Happy sketching, y'all. Peace.